Hi, sixth grade. This is Mrs. C. Have you ever read a book, an article, or a part of a text and then wondered, what am I reading? What is this about? Today we're going to be answering that question together using the GIST strategy. Using this strategy, you'll be able to determine central ideas of an informational text. You'll also be able to show your understanding of that text by creating a summary. So what is a GIST strategy? The GIST strategy is your initial sense of what the text is mostly about. You'd start by thinking about who or what is this text mostly about. Then think, what is the most important information about that who or what in this part of the text? Then you'll put it all together in 10 to 15 words to create a short summary of what you just read. If this sounds very familiar, it's because you're basically finding the central idea of what you just read. So if we break it down a little further, when we think about the who or what, we want to think about what person or thing is the text talking about. It's usually a very important person or a significant event or an important place. Then we want to think about what does the text say about that person or thing. And then we want to put it all together in a brief sentence that brings together the two first initial points that we were able to determine. Here on day 13 of our unit, we're tasked with determining how geography affected the development of early societies. And one resource that we're asked to use is the article Life Along the Nile, based on ancient Egypt. Upon reading this article, you'll then have to answer extended questions that are based on the reading. And then finally, show what you understood about the article by answering the check for understanding question. In order for you to be able to answer these questions, the GIST strategy is a great tool to help you break down the reading before you get into these heavier, more difficult questions to ask. We're going to take a look at the article that you're tasked with reading, and we're going to read the second section together out loud. We're going to model the thinking around the GIST strategy, and then we're going to create a gist, a summary of what that portion of the text said. This section is called Food for Thought. Over time, however, despite being in the midst of desert surroundings, people discovered that the Nile River provided many sources of food. Along the river were fruit trees, and fish swam in the Nile in great numbers. Perhaps most importantly, they discovered that at the same time each year, the Nile flooded for about 6 months. As the river receded, it deposited a rich brown layer of silt that was suitable for growing wheat, beans, barley, or even cotton. Farmers learned to dig short canals leading to fields near the Nile, thus providing fresh water for year-round irrigation. Planting immediately after a flood yielded harvests before the next year's flood. So, when using the GIST strategy, once you have read a portion of the text, you want to stop and think, okay, what is this part about? This part is mostly about the Nile River. Now we want to think about what is the most important information about the Nile River. The most important information that I can see in this section is that the Nile provided many sources of food, and I know this because it states that there were many fruit trees along the river and that fish swam in great numbers in the Nile. It also states that the soil is fertile and it's able to grow wheat, beans, barley, and cotton, and that it was also used for irrigation. And after a flood, it yielded harvests before the next year's flood. So now I can take those two pieces of information and then you want to create a gist. So if I was to take the what, which is the Nile River, and then think about the important information, which is the river was very fertile, I'm going to put it in my own words, and it's going to sound something like, the Nile River is a river that was very fertile and grew many products for the Egyptians. It says here to create a sentence using 10 to 15 words. The reason why we want to stay between that range of 10 to 15 words is because we're not giving a full summary. We just want the initial sense of what the text is mostly about. We don't want to give evidence. We're not looking for exactly what kind of soil it had or anything like that. We just want to keep it short so that we can refer back to it when answering extended questions, for example. So now it's going to be your turn. You're going to take a look at the rest of the article. As you're reading, think about who or what is the section mostly about. Then think about what is the most important information about that who or what as you read each section. Then you can take your notes and write down the gist. And this strategy is going to help you demonstrate what you have learned in your check for understanding at the end.